I'm here, this actress, and I'm invited to take over meetings because of some salon that I was going to, where they brought in all kinds of interesting speakers. And that particular meeting, there was a couple called the Torches. And he was a Russian scientist, and she was, for a better word, a mystic. And they had a book that had just written called From Here to Happiness. And this is a little booklet, it really was. They talked about how your affirmations, how your, the focus, writing sentences, living the idea as if it really was happening, the magic as if, and all that. And by that, you could create stuff. And for this struggling actress, that sounded actually pretty good. So I, of course, immediately signed up and really went on an incredible journey with them, which changed my life, basically. But I want to skip forward. I have now used the technique. I got a lead in a sonata picture. I'm now in Europe, and I'm in Copenhagen in a little suite. And Marielle, the woman, has taken off and come with me because she felt that with my patterns and the stuff that I was going to have some very difficult things to deal with. So she had taken a leave from her practice and had flown over with me, and we're sitting in this suite. And just as she, I guess, predicted, I was having quite a bit of trouble, especially with the director. And I'm just out of, I just don't know what to do. And she said, well, don't worry, it's gonna work out. You'll see, it's actually already is starting to work out. And I said, really? I said, yes, oh yes. So after a little while, there's a knock on the suite, and there is a delivery of 24 red roses from the director. And I thought, what? Roses from the director? I can't believe it. She said, well, see. And then about 20 minutes later, there's another knock on the door, and there's another delivery of roses. And I'm going like, what? This time, turns out they really were from the director. And the reason that she said she had to send the first roses was she had to get past my belief system, that she had to clear the way to be able to have that happen. And that was my first experience of stuff that I didn't get. I didn't understand it. Found out later that actually it was the director being out with his wife, and the wife had come up with the ideas they were having. So set me back a little bit. We focus on could have an effect. So go forward a little bit. I am now using the same method. I decided my husband didn't want me to remarried. He didn't want me to act. So I have quit acting. I am now traveling the world. And after a while, of course, I needed a challenge again, and decided that, yes, I wanted to get a degree in psychology. Why? Very shallow in a way idea was, well, I want something that it's okay to be old and you don't have to be pretty. That because I'd been in acting and I saw the strain on people from having to have all these things. So I thought, well, maybe that would be perfect. And so since my husband said, yes, you can do it, but you can only work you can go to school during the day, and you cannot study after 5 o'clock at night, and you have to give me weekends. I said, okay, all right, I'll do that.
Inger, you're breaking up. We can't really hear you.
UCLA and I don't know what to do. I think maybe is my network.
Now we can hear you.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
If I stay here, is it better? I won't move.
I think it's your connection.
Yeah, I think you're right. So in any case, can you hear me now? Sort of or not? Yeah, good. Um, I used the affirmations, I used the belief system, and I also did the work, by the way, and somehow found a way through UCLA and extension to take all the required courses and find somebody to publish with and all these things I need to do to be admitted. So in any case, that was another challenge where I used some of those beliefs and techniques. So the specialty I went into was personality theory, which in a way was very fortuitous because I had actually no idea what it was when I first said that that was going to be my field. But then I found out it actually was the study of the self and also all the methodology that has all the science, it was Freud, Adler, Jung, ABC theory. I mean, Robert Ellis. I mean, all these different theories that I was learning and also measurement of the effect of these theories. So I basically was working the program, ran across someone who wanted to do a dissertation with me. The week that I was collecting all the data for what was to be my dissertation, which was on sexual harassment at the workplace, which I had been part of this big national study now. I heard about this woman called Marielle Fuller, that she was having a lecture on campus. And somehow I was drawn, even though I really didn't have the time, to stop by and listen. Can you hear me now? Hi. So what her topic was on guided imagery using Jungian symbolism and scenarios, etc. And I was fascinated. Again, I thought I have to know about this. Worked with her, ended up being her assistant in some seminars, and really started using, by that time I had a practice. So I started using this guided imagery with my practice and found it astonishing how deep in that it would allow me to go with the person's, their own discovery of what were some of the deeper traumas and so on that they were dealing with, and also solutions at the same time. So in this constant quest of trying to do good for my clients, trying to help them in a faster, better way, I one day ran across a notice about energy psychology, and there was going to be a conference in Vegas. And so the woman who had supervised my doctor decided she'd go. So the two of us took off for Vegas and expecting to see a lot of people in practical shoes with long skirts and little hats or whatever. And instead I found scientists like Gregory Nicosia, who was talking about thought energy, talking about Craig, who was sort of more or less the founder of EFT. These were all fascinating, interesting stuff that sort of felt like this was the right thing to go to. So I started using those techniques. And in around that same time, if I could get you to put that chart up now, screen, is that I had returned to UCLA along with my practice, and I was teaching personality theory at that time. I was on the faculty, and I was also working on certain models. And I came up with this model, the circular thing here, looking at the thought that if you start with the belief system, that will generate expectations, which you see on the top of the circle, and which then in turn will lead to behavior, influence behavior, and maybe also in some way will have a certain attraction it looks like it's unstable. Are you still hearing me? Yes? No?
Yes.
We don't hear you now.
Too bad.
Can't hear you now, Melanie. Oh, Inger.
When she shows
can you
up,
hear me now?
here.
Now we
Hans,
Yes.
can you hear me again or not?
yes, we can hear you now.
Hans,
Shouldn't be because she's got it muted.
can you hear me now?
You know
Inger,
what?
try and turn off your video.
Yeah, Inger,
No, I can see myself.
Inger, if you turn off your video but keep your voice,
Turn my video
it's
off.
less on your
Stop video.
internet.
Okay. I have, the connection is very weak. Keep going in and out. Can you get off the computer and not?
I'm not on the call.
Okay.
Just your image, just the video. Take the video off, leave your voice on. He uses a lot less of your system.
I'll bring it back up when she comes.
We could take a couple of minutes and choose who's going to run the meeting next week
Yeah, it's a
while
good.
we're waiting for Inger.
So I'm back. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
That's a good idea,
Hello?
Harvey, but yes, you're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, leave the video off and just have your voice. Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. There you go. That's great. So I think I was talking about that particular diagram, that the original part was the part, just the circle part, from the belief to the expectations, to the behavior, or perhaps even attraction to certain events, going then in turn influencing the results, your experience, which then again would feed into the belief system, so that as you have traveled over and over again in this circle, that belief will tend to become a personal law. So for example, if I have a belief that from I heard it or whatever happened, I have now belief that that relationship with men is very difficult for me. So my expectation meeting a man would be that it's probably not going to go well, which will influence my behavior as I'm now with this person, which as of course will have a result of whether he will disappear or I will be attracted to the person that again can reconfirm my belief system. Because the one thing about belief systems is that right or wrong, we always get to be right. You know, we always get to experience what we believe. So that was the first model. When I got involved with energy psychology and I started looking at, okay, how do we, when I need to know what is in that deeply held belief system, because if 95% is unconscious and we really only have 5% in the conscious, then changing the beliefs are only going to be happening if somehow you can get in hold of that material and find a way of taking the valence away or the strength of the impact on the system away before you can ever try to for lack of a better word, reprogram. In other words, you know, doing positive thinking when you have all this stuff going on is kind of like putting on a clean shirt, and what you really need is a shower. So it's going to be on top, and it's going to be all kinds of interference. And that's exactly what happened. A lot of people that were working with affirmations were having a lot of trouble because as they said all these wonderful things and thought about all these wonderful things, there was such noise in the system in the belief system of dialogue that would conscious or unconscious sabotage. So going back to the energy psychology, I started looking at if you take the emotion that the person is feeling at the moment that is troublesome, and now you have them, put them in a light, relaxed, maybe light hypnotic or relaxed state, and then ask them to focus or feel that feeling really located in the body, and then allow the feeling to go to an earlier time where they had that same kind of feeling, maybe different circumstance, different person, whatever, but that feeling. And as soon as they would get there, I'd ask them to nod their head and then give me sort of with the hands, the child measurement of, you know, little or huge, you know. And so we would go from there to maybe there was an earlier time that that feeling would lead them to. And little by little would go farther and farther back and to the point where the person actually couldn't go farther back. And I would, for lack of a better word, call that the originating trauma. And you say OT, the originating trauma. It could have been in their childhood. Some said it was before birth. But I found that as I then started treating the originating trauma with the chakra work, in other words, using the chakra system, or you could also use EFT, but I found that chakra was more powerful, especially for deep emotional material. So I would find that as I then worked with this last originating trauma, and could get that down to a very small valence, a very, very small amount of disturbance or psychic pain or whatever we were measuring. As I then would have them go back to the later and later and later episodes that they had imaged, we would find that while it had on some of them been very, very large, by that moment it was actually have been greatly reduced, so that it appeared that treating the originating trauma had a great effect on all the consequent stuff. And of course, as we would repeat that with various things, because trauma tends to sit in layers, there was a way of clearing the system and allowing them now to be ready to actually start entertaining positive thoughts, positive ideas, positive imaging, which I'll get to in a later stage. I would like at this time, if everyone is interested, to try and do this particular process with a group, just to give you kind of a little idea of what it is and what it feels like. So if you're willing to do this, I would ask you to just sit in a relaxed position and close your eyes and just allow your mind to come up with something that at this particular time is a feeling that seems like somewhat of a familiar feeling, but that is to you a very disturbing or unpleasant feeling. And as you now feel this feeling, I would ask you to take your hand and place it on your body where it feels like that feeling lives mostly. It could be on the stomach, it could be at the solar plexus underneath the breast, or it could be the heart, or it could be the third eye, or it could be many places. But wherever it feels centered for you, you put the hand there. And now allow yourself to think. Excuse me, that is the wrong word. Allow the feeling that you're experiencing to time travel back to an earlier time where you felt that feeling, where it may be certainly different circumstance, different people, whatever, but that feeling is the same, a very similar feeling. And really explore for yourself that feeling. Don't try to think about what it is, but I want you to stay in the feeling, like, as in one way you might say that you want to enter the energetic field of that feeling. And so as you are now entering this field and feeling this feeling in this earlier thing, I want you to take your hand, the other one, and put it on top of your head, on the crown of your head. And as you focus in on this feeling, just repeat to yourself, that feeling, over and over again, so that you may stay in the energetic field of the feeling. And I want you, as it feels like it's time, I want you to move to the forehead and put your hand on the forehead. And again, repeat that feeling, that feeling, that feeling, and really try to dive into it, like submerge yourself in it, that feeling. And then move your hand to just under your nose, like covering your mouth, top of your mouth. Again, that feeling, that feeling, that feeling. And now I would have you move to your chin. Again, that feeling, that feeling, that feeling. All the while holding your hand at that originating point that we had decided on. And when you're ready, you then move to the throat area. Just hold the throat again, that feeling, that feeling. And now the heart area. If that is the point where you're holding, then you skip that point and go to the next one, which would be the solar plexus. So we got that feeling. And go to the solar plexus, that feeling, that feeling. And the stomach area.
Oh, how cool.
That feeling. And now finally in the crease of your pants, on either side, that feeling, that feeling, that feeling. All right. So I would like you now to try and measure for yourself what is the strength of this feeling at this particular time. As you're at this point, where is it? Has it enlarged or is it smaller? Where is it? Okay. So now I'm going to allow you to time travel again. And we're going to take that same feeling and we're going to try and go to an earlier time where you felt that similar feeling. Similar feeling. And when you're there, you just ask yourself to measure. How is it? How big is feeling right there? What is the level of it? And once you have that, then see, is there even an earlier time that that feeling has been experienced? Can you let that feeling travel to even earlier time? A different circumstance, different place, but that same feeling. And if you feel that, then again measure one more time. What is the level? And for those of you that can go even farther, go to the next level. Let the feeling go to even farther back and see, is there farther back time where this feeling will take you to? And because time constrained and also not being able to really see the group as a whole, I'm going to go one more level. And if you don't have any other, just stay at that level. But for those who have even experienced farther back that the feeling is taking you to, we're going to call that the originating trauma. And we're going to have you again measure, or where you are, we measure what is the level of this thing at this particular time. And now we're going to one more time go through that same process where we will start with the crown of the head. And we will go to the forehead. And we'll go to under the nose. Each time repeating that feeling or that pain or whatever is the pain. It could be that pain, that feeling, whatever is meaningful to you as you dive into this feeling and submerge yourself with the feeling. So you keep going, and from the chin, you will be going to the throat. And to the heart. And to the solar plexus. And the stomach. And the crease of your pen. And at this time, I would like you to dive into the feeling one more time and measure again, what is the level of the pain or the feeling or whatever you've been working with at this time. Okay. So to put this process to an end now, in person probably work a little longer, but just for time's sake, I'd like you now to just shake your hands, like just let it go, shake your hands. Just shake them. And then go back to the feeling again. Just visit it one more time. Or the pain. And see where it's at now. Okay. Thank you for having gone through the process with me. And I now would like to open it up to any kind of observations or questions or whatever you might have. And Bill, will you help me see who might raise their hand? Thank you.
Nita, please.
I was sort of surface on this, and then suddenly I found myself in the Middle Ages, really suffering, and I was shocked. And I don't know how, I don't quite know how to deal with that, but it was a very real feeling. The further you kept going, I kept going deeper and further back, and I felt this tremendous weight of all my humanity. And I thought, oh my God, I've been carrying this load for fucking centuries. That's it. Wow. And I do feel a little relief. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Mary Grace.
This was very helpful to me. I use EFT a lot when I have intense feelings about something, and this worked as well as that. You know, it was the depth of my pain and heaviness in my heart, feeling like I had a broken heart. And it really released that feeling. So it was very helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Melanie, please.
It was amazing. I could feel from the very first time through the lessening and the lessening and the lessening. It was quite remarkable. I just was amazed at each movement down through the body. Fabulous. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Also, I should say that I did send late evening or last night this chart out for anybody who would be interested in an email. So you should have received that in case you're interested in looking at it.
Linda and then Janine.
As soon as you said, find something, it came up that I have an old feeling of feeling left out. And then I could travel with that. And I saw the original wound. I was very young. My mom was at the neighbor's house down the street. I was alone. I was probably maybe 2. And I ran down the street looking for her. And I feel like I really met it. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Janine, please.
For me, upset me a couple of days ago and I didn't sleep well last night. So basically, I concentrated on the feeling and I feel calmer. I feel much more relaxed and I feel much better about what upset me. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further at this point, I'd like to maybe go on. And so as I was trying to suggest is that this kind of work will is a way of dealing with old traumas that are sitting in the system. And we know now it's not only sitting in our head, we have a brain in the heart now. We understand we have it all through the bodies. And maybe many of you have had deep massages and found yourself crying on the table, or certain memories come up because literally these things are all through our body. So for me, working with a client, this was the first step. having now cleared or partially cleared or taken some of the weight of these traumas on our system away, we still need to then, for lack of a better word, do some reprogramming, right? We need to, and that's where I think that Rick Hansen's work is absolutely wonderful. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but I discovered him some years back, and he became, his tapes and whatever became required study for all my clients, because I just felt his work was so wonderful. And he really just talks about how repeated imaging will create new experience in the brain, and in fact, new neurological material, new cells form. That cells form in the brain with experience is fairly new. A lot of us don't know it at all. I didn't. And there was an interesting study that was done with the London cab drivers. Some of you may already know this one, of course, but they suspected that if there's certain parts of the brain that dedicated to certain things, like, for example, memory, and they wanted to see if you could measure that and whether increased experience would actually measure physically, you know. So they decided on this experiment using the London cab drivers, who spent a very concentrated year on a little motorized bike, driving every single little street of London over and over and over again, so that they have now the memory. They literally, to be licensed, have to have the memory of the entire city. And as they suspected, they measured the various brain measurements that they did before they started this year and after. And there was definite changes in the brain structures. There was definite thickening of cells, more cells in that area that had to do with memory. And interestingly enough, it kept going for about another year after they had been studying it. So just as we can increase the cells in the memory for our memory, Rick Hansen suggests that we can also increase our happiness, in quote, muscle by imaging, and not the kind of imaging where you sort of just a brain exercise. The imaging we're talking about is, well, let me give you an example. It's been quite a while for me, but maybe some of you not so long. When you had a date and there was this first kiss and there was the touching and there was like, oh, all these feelings. And you got to bed that night and you closed your eyes, you just want to relive it. And you could just relive, you could feel that they're touching you and you could feel it was just all through your body, feel it. I'm talking about that kind of imaging, which is a visual, energetic, in the body feeling. So that when you visualize or image positive stuff, the level of imaging that will really do anything is the kind where you actually can feel, ooh, yeah, that you know, whether you're imaging things of beauty or you're imaging a dog that you love and loves you, or whatever it is that you're trying to heal in our system to keep us a little more balanced, where we, you know, it's known from the very beginning that we had a negativity bias for survival, that, you know, we had to be alert, but nowadays we have a tendency to be in that survival system way too long. And all of us, I think, can attest to in this last year, we've been in the survival system. And we've been in a low level of stress or maybe higher level of stress. And we're even at times that stress expression, people are turning against each other. People are becoming more judgmental of each other. There's like this whole disturbance that's happening just because this fight or flight system has been activated. And scientists are now telling us that if that's activated, at the moment of activation, during activation, there is no cell growth. So that all the millions of cells that we're losing every day and we keep generating every day, that healing process, the replenishing stops when we're in that mode. And so that has huge implications for healing. And for the immune system, which shuts down. If you get enough stress in the system, it will shut down. And so that all these opportunistic diseases that are around us all the time can flourish because our systems are literally shut down. So I think this, what I call mental hygiene, is so important for all of us to really be aware of how long a time do we each day spend in focus on difficulty, focus on trauma, focus on bad events, and how much time of the day are we focusing on good events, on people who are kind, people who are loving, things that are beauty. So really be aware of that, because there's a high cost if that balance is not good. It's a really high cost to us, emotionally and physically. So anyway, see if I can get off my, what is it, the stool you stand and lecture on. So let's see what else so I believe that the last person I want to talk about is Bruce Lipton. And his biology of belief and all the beautiful work that he has constantly advanced, and possibly we looking more and more about some of the stuff I just talked about. He talks a lot about how we can be, I call it emotional hardiness. How can we become more emotionally hardy? How can we come more from love? Because it's clear that the electrical generation from the heart is far stronger than that coming from the brain. And I spent most of my life coming from the brain, which it's another topic another day, and I ended up with a heart failure from it. So my sister told me I had to come from the heart. Are we almost finished?
Well, we usually stop at 10 of, but we could go a little bit later, a couple more minutes later.
Let me see if there's anything I feel that I absolutely have to talk about. There's so much. I mean, I'm talking about aging. If I could just pull this little thing in. I know a lot of you may be aware of the study, but I became fascinated with some work that Ellen Langer, who was at Harvard, did about aging. And she did an experiment a long, long time ago, but it actually was not published before 2009, in which she had an experiment. She took 7 people in the, was it 8? 7 or 8 people of the in the 70s. 2 groups, and she took them to a monastery. And she, the one group she put back in time, meaning they got there, everything was as if it had been 20 years earlier. They were encouraged to only talk about events at that time. The newspaper was that, the music that was played, the Ed Sullivan show was on, all this stuff. For 1 week, they were literally submerged in that time period. And what they found was that when they had taken the various, what was considered stable measurements of the persons before this week and after, there was quite a bit differences. And some of them big physical differences. And compared to the other group, which had just had an ordinary stay at the monastery. So in 2010, DVC decided to do, I think it was a 4-part series on that, where they got a bunch of older celebrities, men, and did the same thing. They took them, they picked them up in a car 35 years earlier than what they were driving, and submerged them in an environment, again, of everything was from that time period of 35 years earlier. And believe it or not, had the same results, found the same differences. They had, one man had come in on crutches, was walking out. Another man that had trouble and had to have help putting his socks on was the one that actually organized and staged the departure dinner. So there were like some amazing things that happened. And to me, it's just one big message.
Okay.
That where we live and where we think of makes a difference. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.